this has to be what the great falling away looks like. And it's just like it does something to my mind and to my heart because I'm just like, how do you stop it? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So there's a subject that I've been thinking a lot about, and one that's just, it messes with my mind. And that's the subject of the great falling away. There's a lot of Bible verses that talk about that as we get towards the end of time, that there's going to be this great falling away. Now, there's a Bible verse that speaks to this. I mean, there's many Bible verses that speak to it, but one in particular, and it is 2 Timothy 4, verse 3, which says this: "For the time will come when they will not tolerate sound doctrine, but wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teachers in accordance with their own desires." What this verse is saying is that there's going to come a time when they, now who's the they in the verse? Well, the they are believers, not unbelievers, Christians, those that have professed love and devotion to Jesus are all of a sudden not going to tolerate, accept sound doctrine, things that for hundreds and hundreds of years, basic biblical foundational truths, they're going to all of a sudden reject it. And instead, they're going to want to have their ears tickled by accumulating teachers who then speak to their own sinful desires and make them feel like it's okay. So the question is, well, how will we know when that time comes? How will we know? Because let's just go for the last 2,000 years. That's when Peter says we've been in the last days. Have there not been people who've lived, who've professed their love and devotion to Jesus, but then have walked away by believing false teachers who are pushing false ideologies, false truths? Like, has that not been happening already for hundreds and hundreds of years? I would say so. So what's the difference going to be when we get into these times that Timothy's talking about, where sound doctrine will no longer be tolerated, accepted, believed, but instead it's going to be rejected in place of false teaching, anti-biblical teaching? And so I read that verse, and I've read that verse, and I've just asked myself the question, like, how will we know? Because when you look at our world today, look at the church today, and we've seen this massive invasion of worldly thinking, worldly practice, or I could say anti-biblical teaching, anti-biblical belief, anti-biblical practice invading the church. I mean, let's just pick one issue out of many in our modern day world: marriage. So since Genesis, since the very beginning, God has said marriage is between one man and one woman forever. That's been God's standard. Well, let's look at our world today. Marriage is no longer looked at, believed to be between one man and one woman forever. You got 50 different options in there. There's man, woman, and then there's the whole other litany of options that those who don't want to identify as a man or a woman can now identify with. And then all of those options feel that they should have the right to become quote unquote married. So in the church, we've seen that for thousands of years, marriage has been between one man and one woman forever. But now the church is now beginning to recognize, or I should say not the whole church, but large sections of the church have now taken what was believed to be sound doctrine, sound teaching, one man, one woman forever, to now being accepting to now including a whole bunch of other options that go in complete opposition to what God has revealed in his word. So to me, that's a perfect example of 2 Timothy 4:3, where sound doctrine is not being tolerated anymore, but instead wanting to have ears tickled. In other words, wanting to have their sinful heart, sinful desires welcomed and accepted. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They've now embraced teachers, ideas, ideologies. They've accepted those as being biblical, as being from God, as being God approved now, because that's what their own desires want. And that's what happens when the world, anti-biblical teaching, anti-biblical belief makes its way into the church. And so this is why we've seen this massive assault on the Bible, because the Bible is the foundation. This is where we learn about God, where we find out who he is, what he's like, what he loves, what he hates, what he's for, what he's against, boundaries that we are to live in. This is the Bible. If we can assault the Bible, if we can take away that inerrant claim where it's not the divine word of God, it's up for debate. It's just this outdated, man-made collection of writings that, are no longer applicable for today. And that's why there's been this crazy assault on the Bible, because now if it's not inerrant, if it's not divine, well, then we can then take it, change it, manipulate it, reinterpret it so that we can have our ears tickled, believe what we want to believe, and still, quote unquote, get to heaven. And so when we look at our world, when I look at our world, it's like, is this it? Is this what the great falling away is? Because I have known a lot of pastors, a lot of friends, where for years believed sound doctrine, but now have completely rejected that and have gone the other direction. And now look at me as if I'm the one that's lost. And it's like, I take a step back and I'm like, is this it? Is this the great falling away? Like, is this what it feels like? Is this what it looks like? Where you have people, where you have believers who believed what was true and now have stepped away from that and are now claiming that this is not true anymore, but now this is true. They've embraced this worldly system as being the word of God, as being the new truth. And they've assaulted the text. They've assaulted the sacred text. It's not divine anymore. And I've seen it happen like right in front of my eyes. Being someone that's on social media quite regularly, posting regularly. I mean, I have had the hundreds of thousands of comments on my content, and seeing some of these responses to biblical ideas from people and just how twisted and just, I don't get it. But this is the world that we're living in now, where it's like sound doctrine is no longer looked at as sound doctrine. It's looked at as outdated, non-divine, antiquated systems of belief that are now open for discussion and open for reinterpretation. And where now the world, the systems of the world, First John calls it, there have been many antichrists that have come and that are going to come. Not the antichrist, that's still coming, but many antichrists who've come, false teachers who are pushing just anti-biblical teaching, but it's being believed and eaten up. And then the Christians who believe sound doctrine, well, we're considered the ones that are being lost, that we just don't see, that we're blinded. This has to be what the great falling away looks like. And it's just like, it does something to my mind and to my heart, because I'm just like, how do you stop it? Like, what do we do? Because what was seen as truth is no longer seen as truth. I mean, we live in social media. world where it's the comment sections now where wars take place. And I try to stay away from a lot of that, but sometimes, you just get sucked right in there, and it's like the thoughts and ideas of people are just like, this is the great falling away. And it's really sad, and it breaks my heart. And so I want to encourage everyone watching, if you are a Christian and you're a believer in Jesus and you'd hold to sound doctrine and teaching, we got to stay close to Jesus. We got to stay in his word, because if we are in fact in this season of great falling away, it's like it's in the air that we're breathing. And if we're not careful, we can become so easily just swept away if we're not anchored. And so I think now more than ever, and as time goes on, we got to keep our relationship with Jesus first and foremost. Keep it strong, keep it a priority, because times that we're living in, man, like deception is in the air that we breathe. And if we're not careful, we're susceptible. And so my encouragement is stay close to Jesus. Well, that's it for this video. That's just some of the thoughts that I've been thinking and processing through. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. We'll see you all in the next video. Much love and God bless.